We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Sergeant Renner reporting for duty.
Ha 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 ha.
How you feeling, man?
I'm still reeling from the haircut.
Have you gotten any other comments besides me and Quinn making fun of you?
Yeah, my parents liked it, which is a bad sign.
Oh my gosh.
They're like, it looks good. And I'm like, okay, that's how I know.
You're screwed. What about, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Any other feedback?
So I didn't tell this on the other day on the pod, but my barber used to be in the Army. And I'm like, just give me a short, like I just want it short. Because like it's about to be summer. And apparently he had some flashbacks.
You told me before we started recording that you look like Jake Gyllenhaal from Jarhead, and I lost it. Yeah. That is spot on. It's spot on. It's a good look, though. I think you could lean into it this summer. I think it would be really...
I was Googling before this, how long does hair grow in a week? Because the draft shows next Thursday, obviously.
I'd love to see Google search trends for how long does hair grow in a week, because I feel like a lot of guys down bad.
An eighth of an inch. That's all I need. That's all I need.
Eighth of an inch matters. All right, let's go ahead now and get into this bonus mailbag here. This is our last one of the draft season. Man, we tried to catch up. The support for 2-for-1 drafts has been insane. The podcast growth, to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, the podcast growth is like close to like 70, 80% over the last like 6 weeks. We have blown up, and we did not expect this many questions. We really appreciate everyone's support. The rule is, and we said this yesterday, the rule is we will answer any question that was not answered in the mailbag in the DMs.
And also we'll do mailbags a couple after the draft.
Oh, 100%.
We have like over the summer of like people were asking more evergreen questions like, what do you look for in linebackers?
Yeah.
Well, we've shelved some of those. We'll do a mailbag sometime in the summer or something.
We could also reset. We could reset the mailbag counter and do some post-draft questions if we want to get into that. We'll do some more mailbags. We've loved the support of 2-for-1 Draft, so really appreciate everyone who's been listening to the podcast for sure. Definitely share a screenshot on Twitter. Send it to me via DM or Mike with your question if it wasn't answered. And I'm going to get back to you, dog. I will be up all night answering questions in the DMs if I have to. All right, let's start here with the bonus mailbag. Mikey T, 7265. Oh, no, we answered this one yesterday. I already got to this one. Let's delete this one. Bang. This is from Smichaels. My mailbag question I have this time is I would like to hear a perfect draft with the Green Bay Packers from Austin's perspective and what Mike thinks about it. Interesting. So perfect draft, I have to go through all of their picks, first, second, third.
I don't know. Do who's their first, second.
Okay. I think my perfect pick for the first round is Elijah Moore. I really like Elijah Moore of Ole Miss going to the Green Bay Packers.
Speaking to me.
In that spot. And I know they could chase offensive tackle there. It's a good edge class. And you know I love positional value. You know I'm leaning those guys who get paid a lot of money on those second contracts. But I think Elijah Moore, in terms of the window they have right now, I think that does help it a ton. And getting him in there to complement Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers, man, I think that is what takes this offense a huge step forward. And then in the second round, I think they attack potentially interior offensive line. I think you go after, one of these guys that, Landon Dickerson, Creed Humphrey, you could go Wyatt Davis, getting interior offensive line on day 2. Guys that can come in and start at the back end of round 2, grabbing a starter on interior offensive line, I think is something they're more than capable of doing. Say Leatherwood falls that far. I think there's a lot of good interior offensive line depth, maybe Kendrick Green. That's where my mind goes. If they don't go tackle or edge in round 1, I don't think they need to force it in round 2. You can go get starters, take advantage of that window you have right now, and go get a Creed Humphrey, Landon Dickerson, Wyatt Davis in round 2.
I dig that. The Elijah Moore pick, I'm praying right now. Brian Gutekunst, you're listening, you're watching. Please bring him home. They need someone. They just have not had a receiver, obviously outside Devontae Adams, with ball skills.
Yeah.
Someone who can haul in tough catches. That is flat out have not had that since Jordy Nelson left. And Elijah Moore, for his career, 10 drops on 200 catchable, 5% drop rate. Exceptional.
That's what you need.
You go back, Alan Lazard was over 10% in college. Marquez Valdez-Scantling was over 10% in college. someone with actual ball skills. And then for his career, the past 2 years, 20 of 33 in contested situations, 5'9", 180, 20 of 33. That is exceptional playing through contact. Yes, Elijah Moore, bring him home, please.
Fair enough. All right, let's get to Kidder Lindley. As a Bills fan, should I hope for Ed Oliver or write him off as a bust for the number 9 pick?
I think this was always going to be the case, though. When you drafted him where he was, we kept saying he's so incredibly raw. What he did at Houston is almost like none of it even translates to what he's going to do in the NFL. He was playing zero tech nose tackle and firing off 2 hands into centers. You're never going to do that. And he's a 3 technique. He's 280 pounds. So it was always going to be year 3, year 4. So no, don't write him off as bust. We've seen flashes from him. But it's just like, if you wanted a guy who was going to make an immediate impact, that was never going to be that guy. I just think you had to realize that. And it was kind of like the same thing we said about Rashawn Gary. And Rashawn Gary had some flashes this past year, but it was never going to be year 1, year 2. It was always, can you develop him into year 3 or 4? Because that's just how it goes when a guy is that behind the developmental curve.
He's only 23 years old. You look at this past year, he had a 72.3 pass rushing grade, an improvement from 62.4 as a rookie. But you see some really bleak numbers in run defense. I haven't watched him closely. I plan to watch a lot of the NFL guys in the summer, but a 30.0 run defense grade last year, that's hard to get. Yeah, that's difficult to get.
Undersized.
Man.
That's what you worry about.
Tough to see it. I'm excited to watch him. Definitely going to look forward to that and see where his development is. Let's get to Nebel113. With the Broncos filling needs at corner and the Athletic article explaining why the Broncos will not take Micah Parsons at 9. Would it be too high? I haven't read that article. Yeah. That's interesting. Would it be too high to pick Owusu-Koramoah? Personally, would like them to trade up to 4 if Lance is there, but like Owusu-Koramoah if Lance is gone. I agree that the move has to be to go up to 4 because Lance is going to be there, or Fields will be there. I mean, you have to go up to 4 and go get Lance or Fields. I really do. And I think the price is worth it. A future first-round pick and likely maybe a future second or future third, and obviously the number 9 overall pick to go get a quarterback that's objectively a better prospect than Drew Lock is the move. That's what you do. You're not a JOK, Micah Parsons, Patrick Surtain, J.C. Horn away from winning football games in Denver. You are a good quarterback away from being consistently competitive. And I do think that Owusu-Koramoah, I think, would be a bit high at 9, especially when you consider positional value. Mm-hmm. But if the Denver Broncos come out of this without a quarterback, I'd be really concerned because then you're going to go into next year just needing one. Like if we're most likely needing one.
We've made that clear. I think the Broncos.
We beat that horse.
Yes. 9 though for Owusu-Koramoah. The fit in Vic Fangio's defense. He's never had hybrid linebackers. Like he's gotten to like 235 plus pounders is kind of his MO. It's like they stick him in the middle, and I don't think there's a role for him. Like I don't think he's a great fit. So I think 9. Like, can he do it? Yeah, but I just don't think that that's ever been a role in Vic Fangio's defense. Basically, the role that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is kind of ideal at the NFL level.
Yeah. All right, moving to Mad Dog _2021. You find yourself in an alternative reality where whichever player each team drafts in the first round becomes cloned 22 times and must start at all 11 spots on offense and defense for the team that drafts them. What are the top 5 prospect rankings?
This one's tough because obviously matchups are going to be huge here.
Yeah.
If you get Ali McNeil going against Rondale Moore, it's going to be, I don't know how that's going to play out. Like
I know how it's going to play out.
Yeah, McNeil's going to have going to win there, but the guys I think would be the best would win the most. Mm-hmm. Justin Fields, Trey Lance.
Yeah, those have to be your first 2. Have to be. Maybe even Trevor Lawrence, honestly.
Yeah. Lawrence just like skinny though, right?
Yeah.
He would just get broken in half long. Your offensive line would just be injured immediately.
You don't have a player ranked here that needs to be ranked, but I'll get to that soon.
Ali McNeil, obviously you saw him play running back in the day. If you just shed some, I think like each player would be able to like revamp their body to a way.
I mean, in this universe, anything's possible.
Exactly. Micah Parsons also, and then Rondale Moore, just for the
Maybe
exciting.
Kadarius Toney slipped in there because he threw that ball like 80 yards.
yeah,
That could be an
I
option.
completely
And
forgot
then the
about
other guy I
Kadarius
think you have to include in here is Felipe Franks. It's like 6'6",
Yeah.
250, and with a cannon. Like, I mean, I'm
Although
interested.
it's like, is Felipe Franks any more accurate than Kadarius Toney?
Who knows? But he ran a 4.58, I think, or something crazy.
Yeah,
like
Kadarius Toney has said he can throw a ball 80 yards.
I think Kadarius Toney has to
does
be
have
put in
arms.
the mix. Maybe even
Yeah.
I think you have to kill Lee McNeil from these rankings. As fun as he is, you're just
But
not.
he dominates the lines, like
True.
lines. What do you? I guess
An offensive line of all Lee McNeil's.
But then you just pass on
Yeah,
those.
it'll be.
You're gonna have no time. You just throw wide screens. Yeah.
Who's the coach? Is it also the coach?
Yeah.
Lee McNeil's also the coach. All right, let's go. Nerds like beer too. Please explain these drinking games. They also want us to explain drinking games. Eventually we will. Now for football. After these crazy pro day numbers, Atlanta at 4 has the chance to take a true blue chip in Sewell, Chase, or Pitts. If they stay at 4, who's the best fit for the team? Also, what's a realistic haul they could get for the pick from a QB needy team?
I think we did the realist call. I think I said
First and a third.
future first.
That's if
third.
Denver's trading.
Yeah. Pitts is, I think, the best fit if you're taking a non-quarterback there. I think I've come around to if they're just staying at 4, your best bet's going to be a quarterback. Like that has the most value to you. Yeah, it's not going to play this upcoming year, but the trade value of quarterbacks is undefeated. So I think we've seen that. Like you either trade the pick or you draft a quarterback there with how highly thought of this quarterback class is. But Pitts is the guy if they are picking a position player that I'd go with.
I think I tweeted, maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, that like if they take anything but a quarterback at 4, it's definitely malpractice. Like you have to, if you stay at 4, I think you have to take a quarterback.
Because and the guy I would like Trey Lance. The interesting thing about Trey Lance is everyone kind of has the same opinion of him, where it's like this guy's tools are off the charts. He shows anything, everyone's buying in. Everyone wants that guy. Then like you show anything, kind of less like when Darnold was coming in. It's like everyone's so high in him. All you got to show is a flash, 2 games, and you get like a second and fourth. Like you immediately get your value back for that guy, and you can get that and then some if Trey Lance becomes good. So that's where I lean there.
All right. I'm Chief Keith, also a Patriots fan. I think with the moves we've made in free agency, we very well could be in the QB market come draft time. But assuming the first 3 quarterbacks, Lawrence, Wilson, or Fields, are off the board, that if it's Trey Lance or bust for us. I can't foresee a way that Mac Jones can operate a successful offense with how we still really have ass cans at receiver. I'm just curious of your take on my opinion.
Ass cans. The way it's built right now, the way that offense is built, they did build it for Cam Newton with the 2 tight ends and that offensive line. So, which quarterback plays more like Cam Newton or like looks more like Cam Newton? Is it Trey Lance or is it Mac Jones? Yeah, it's obviously Trey Lance in that scenario. Although it's like which quarterback looked more like Tom Brady? Is it Trey Lance or Mac Jones? So I will say teams are sort of like your position, your personnel can change quickly. That I wouldn't base it off of that. I'd base it off of who you think's better for my team. But I think everyone has said, oh, it's Mac Jones for the Patriots. Yeah, they could be the team that moves up to 4 and goes and gets Lance.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's going to be between Denver and New England looking to come up and grab,
QB4.
Yeah, QB4. All right, let's go to, before we jump off, actually, who is a team that hasn't been mentioned as a potential trade up team that would be a surprise trade up for a quarterback? Because we've mentioned Denver, we've mentioned Washington, we've mentioned New England. Is there another team that you're like, no one's thinking about it, but maybe?
So I really don't think anyone else would even consider a quarterback. Like the Giants, obviously, Gettleman, he's tied. Chargers, Minnesota. Minnesota would be the one who's like, that would be interesting.
Mine is Vegas.
You think Vegas?
I'm trying to think of a surprise team. Could be Vegas.
I don't think it's going to be a surprise team. I just think like it's Chicago's like the last team there. That's like that could be.
Well, that exercise sucked.
Well,
it was a bad question.
Yeah.
All right, Zach Bennett. Thoughts on the Raiders drafting a top defender at 17 and then trading back into the first round to get a right tackle?
I could see trading up all the way back in the first round to play. Like that's going to cost you because you're sitting there middle of the second. You got a ways to go.
What would that cost? Like a future second, maybe even a future first?
Yeah, probably like a 2 and 3. I could see monitoring the tackle class and being like, okay, this one's off the board. This one's off the board.
Maybe trading up in the second round.
Like there's one left that we like. Let's move up 10 spots. But moving all the way and just being like, all right, there's 5 still available. I want Cosme, 29. That I can't get on board with.
What defender would you like at 17 for them?
Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Micah Parsons, 17. I think Barmore at 17 is another one. I think I like
17.
This is from Whack Jalis. What should the Bucs do with the first round pick, seeing as they have a pretty complete roster? Draft for D-line depth, trade back, or my dream scenario would be drafting Rashad Bateman to pair back up with Tyler Johnson and act as a potential Godwin replacement.
Yeah, I think you go a number of different ways. And again, you're at a position that you want to be at as a roster where you can't really go wrong. You're just going to trust your board and say, but I think the two most intriguing options, and I do love Rashad Bateman there, but Kadarius Toney would be really intriguing to me because him on option, like he only ran these like option routes last year. That's a lot of that is what Tom Brady loves to throw to over the middle of the field from the slot. Like he is deadly on those routes. He's an interesting one. And then just offensive line depth. Saw last year, you have a great offensive line. You have a thin offensive line. One guy goes down. I don't know how you're necessarily replacing him. The guy I've said is Landon Dickerson. Now, obviously the knee, whatever, have to vet that. But he's played all 5 positions along the offensive line over the course of his career between Alabama and Florida State. So if you need a guy to step in right away, that would probably be your best bet. Like someone goes down in the playoff run, all of a sudden you don't necessarily have a hole anymore because you got Landon Dickerson. And inevitably, offensive line's injuries strike. No one stays healthy for 16 games in a full playoffs. 17 games. God, excuse me.
17 games, man. That's gotta get that in your head. This is from and it's called Foot BHFDG, whatever. Nice. In my opinion, the Eagles are in an interesting purgatory at 12 where we are less likely to get an elite prospect like Pitts or Chase, but can get a good player that can only solve one need. We've seen the Eagles trade up twice for Wentz. Could they trade down twice? Would it be smart and feasible to trade down to late in the first, mid-20s, and then using that draft capital and their day 2, day 3 picks to trade back into the late first? With this, the Eagles could, in theory, get Owusu-Koramoah and Bateman/Marshall Jr., allowing them to have 2 higher success rate picks and solving their 2 biggest needs with fewer question marks and their surrounding players.
Yeah, I mean, they could. I also think they're going to get one of the top 3 wideouts. I just think they will. Hey, look at the board. You got Atlanta. They would really, only one they would take is Pitts of the top, I guess, then 4 receiving options. Cincinnati, likely. Miami, likely. So you got 2 receivers off the board, say. And that's worst case scenario. Detroit's not going to, Detroit would then probably take offensive lineman before they take wide receiver. Carolina's not going to take a wide receiver. Denver won't. Dallas won't. Giants, possible, but I bet they go offensive line. That leaves, I mean, like it's very, very likely you're going to get one of those top 3. And if you don't, well, hell yeah, then trade down. But obviously it takes 2 to tango. There would have to be like a quarterback or someone really that has fallen there. So I think you're going to need to go player 12 though.
I also don't know which teams are going to be interested in trading up necessarily to 12. I always come back to like what if there's no quarterbacks on the board.
Who's moving up, or what player is someone moving up for there? Because in that scenario, kind of all the guys we've said are blue chip players are gone at that point.
As a lifelong Steelers fan, this is from Austin Stash. As a lifelong Steelers fan, I'm in the camp of draft J.C. Horn or whichever top corner slips at 24 or trade back. I think that having another starting corner has more immediate impact on winning games than drafting the 4th or 5th tackle when you get a legit tackle in the 2nd round still, or Javonte Williams, please. My take is, I don't know if J.C. Horn's going to fall that far. I think if you look in the betting markets right now, it's like a 12.5. Yeah. Like I think he's going to, or I think it might be 14.5, wherever it is. I think J.C. Horn's going to go inside probably the top 17 picks. For that reason, I think where the value does stack up, I don't think you should look at it as you're drafting the 4th or 5th best tackle. You're drafting a very good offensive tackle at 24. Yeah. Like you can get maybe Darisaw, maybe Tevin Jenkins there at 24. I think those 2 guys could be available to them at 24. And that I do think maybe an elite corner has more impact on winning games. You're splitting hairs at that point, though. I think a really good offensive tackle for the Steelers could be massive.
Yeah, and so we talk about this is a very deep tackle class. Very deep tackle class means you can get a good one at 24. It doesn't mean you can get a good one at 55. Is the thing. And it's like a very good deep, it was kind of like last year's wide receiver class. Great wide receiver class. By pick 49, it was over. Like it was kind of just like there wasn't a lot available for you in terms of guys who you felt good about making an immediate impact. That's kind of how I feel about this tackle class. I'd be very surprised if even if you're the Chargers at 47, I'd be surprised if you're sitting there and like, oh, I can get a starting tackle. I think they're going to be gone by then.
Jumping to Lanky Stag. My question is, what would the ideal 3-round draft the New Orleans Saints look like? They currently have picks 28, 60, 98, and 105. Thanks. Keep up the fantastic work.
All right. First round pick, 28, Terrace Marshall, the LSU wide receiver. A little something different to the table. Now, rumored injury concerns hasn't been necessarily disclosed, but he did have a few injuries over his time at LSU. That remains to be seen. But 28, I think value would be great there. Second round, 60, Kelvin Joseph, a.k.a. YKDV Boss Man Fat. He's put out 6 albums, I've learned.
6 albums?
The Kentucky cornerback, yes.
Are they good?
Coming back home from when he went to LSU and transferred, obviously, after getting suspended for the bowl game. I haven't listened to any of them, but he has put out 6. I respect that he has. Camp Sample then at 98 or somewhere in the third. They're obviously going to trade one of those third-round picks to move up in the second.
Of course.
So, yeah.
They should trade 98 and 105 to go up to like 50 or something and try and make a big play.
And that's when they get YKDV Boss Man Fat.
I like that. All right.
Camp Sample, the Tulane defensive end.
This is from TTY Grisman HD. My question is, do the Saints draft for need, which is cornerback, or take some kind of value that drops? If a Kyle Trask falls to our 60th overall pick, should we take a shot on him or get another receiver? Before you answer, I was on Tampa Bay radio hit yesterday, JP Peterson. I'm with him every single week. And he was talking, shared on the air a quote from Jason Light, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers GM, talking about drafting quarterbacks in the middle rounds. Remember we had that conversation about which team should draft quarterbacks in the middle rounds, like these developmental guys. And he said, we're in a unique position to do so. And what was interesting is that because we have a good coaching staff, and we have a coaching staff that can develop young quarterbacks that is in a position to do so because we already have a good one, and it's not a priority right out of the gate, and it's not a brand new coaching staff. We're not handling a lot of different things. And it got me back to thinking, it's like we used to talk about like what team needs that. It's like I do think the teams that should take flyers on the Jamie Newman, Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Davis Mills of the world are ones with a legitimate coaching staff with like consistency across the board that can actually manage taking on a quarterback and developing him. Because if you, for example, as good as maybe Urban Meyer's staff is, Robert Saleh, I pronounce his name terribly every single time I say it. I don't know. I'm sorry. But these other coaching staffs where you're bringing in a bunch of new faces to throw the development of a young quarterback drafted in round 2, round 3 at those people, I think would be very tough. I think you have to kind of take into account, like, what are you as a franchise and where are you at from a coaching perspective with the familiarity of your quarterback's coach, your offensive coordinator, and your starter to do it. So I do think that I found that interesting. I think teams like Pittsburgh, who have had Mike Tomlin and that staff for a while, Tampa Bay, those are areas where I think you can swing the bat on those guys and feel good about developing them accordingly.
Yeah, but I don't think Kyle Trask is a great fit for New Orleans.
No, fair. But it just got me thinking about the conversation about like what types of teams take them, you know? Yeah. What's your take on Kyle Trask to New Orleans? And
I just don't love the fit. I don't think he fits great for that offense there, like his underneath accuracy. And now, obviously, Sean Payton is a wizard. I'm not sure he's tied into one certain brand of football, but that is what he's done for the past decade and a half with Drew Brees. His like timing and underneath accuracy is kind of, it leaves something to be desired, Kyle Trask.
Fair enough. All right. This question is from, don't read this name. Oh, God damn it.
Gotcha.
My question is if you factor intangibles into prospect grading.
It's a toughie. We try, honestly, not to, I'd say. Like we try to focus on like what you did on film. And if you have good intangibles, that should have shown at this point. Or like that's like that shows on a football field. And if you have maybe bad intangibles, but you're still a fucking great football player, some guys are. Yeah. Some guys piece of shit and are multiple Pro Bowlers.
I think that's like the most common counter argument too. I think a lot of people look at PFF and they see how we evaluate players and like, what if you don't factor in what time he gets there and what time he leaves and how strict he is on his diet and how nice he is to everyone. Let's see it on the field. When that impacts the game, when it impacts his play, that's when it gets counted. You know, if he is the first guy in, the last guy out, I hope he grades above 70. You know, I mean, he's grinding for a reason. And I think those intangibles, that's the biggest thing. Those intangibles should show up on the football field. The problem is I don't know how you factor in intangibles that have positive effects on others. into a prospect screening. That's the hard part. It's like this guy
Building
brings up the team. He brings up the defensive line. He makes it fun to be at the Patriots or whatever. Like it's that's, let's just call it what it is. Impossible for us to know. Like it's impossible for us to factor in.
And that's like something that's unique to your roster.
Yeah.
Like the Seahawks can bring in a ton of, a-holes, for lack of a better word, in that, when they were the Legion of Boom, guys who just all big ass personalities who were brash and, maybe didn't get along with everybody and have it work because you have Pete Carroll at the helm and whatever. But that guy might not fit into another locker room where it's a different culture. Like Earl Thomas can go to Baltimore and they'll be like, hey, fucking kick rocks, dude. We're not going to let that fly. So,
yeah. It's interesting. It's definitely an interesting discussion. It's one that we don't factor in, but I do know is a big factor in where these guys get drafted. It's a massive factor in how teams construct their boards. Yeah. This is from Pat Ellipsis CPE. Hey guys, which day one or day two receiver prospects do you think are the best fit for the Patriots? Don't say De'Ami Brown. Just don't.
Yeah, I think Terrace Marshall. I think they need someone with speed. So with big catch radius now.
He's got long arms. I think 33-inch arms?
Yeah. Now, are they in a position to necessarily get him? Well, after the medicals, possibly at 46, but I do think that would be their best fit of the guys that are in a realistic range for them.
That would be sick. Terrace Marshall in the second would be hot for New England. It's known to kill Harry, but all right. Dylan Singer. Which scenario for the Giants in this year's draft is better? 4-round mock. First one, Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle Northwestern. Joseph Asai, edge defender, Oklahoma State. Tay Gowan, cornerback, UCF, PFF guy. Jalen Darden, wide receiver, North Texas. Or, other scenario, Micah Parsons, linebacker, Penn State. Interior offensive lineman, Wyatt Davis, Ohio State. Quincy Roche, Miami edge defender. Roche. Cornell Powell, wide receiver, Clemson. I like option one. I like option one, I think.
This one's tough.
It's tough, though. It's close. He didn't go completely unrealistic, which I respect.
I'll go option 2, personally.
Interesting. You like Parsons?
They're fine at corner. Yeah, I just think Parsons is like, so Slater in this scenario, Slater's playing guard for you if you're drafting with the Giants.
Yeah.
So you're not moving Peart to guard. You're not moving Solder to guard. I don't think. Those guys are 6'7", 6'8". Like, those are huge ass guards. Yeah, so I think Slater would have to play on the interior. And it's like Slater versus Wyatt Davis on the interior. Now I know his knees are kind of effed, Wyatt Davis, but yeah, I think we'll go option 2. You go option 1. Interesting. Yeah.
It's tough though. It's a really good question. It's a really good 2 scenarios, man. Didn't go completely unrealistic. Like I remember we do some of these and it's like getting like 4 first-round players in the first 100 picks. More. Love to see that. All right, this is from Austin Gale's mustache. A common thread. Prospects. My question is about the Broncos and Panthers. At 8 and 9, their best shot without a trade up is either Trey Lance or Mac Jones. For the Broncos, would you rather they get a solid baseline to Mac Jones with all the offensive talent they already have, or go for a home run by having Trey Lance sit for a year?
That home run, dude. Swing for the fences. You got Pat Mahomes in your fucking division.
Yeah.
And
Herbert, who's looking pretty.
And Derek Carr.
And Derek Carr is Mac Jones. Yeah. Don't you have that as the comp in the draft guide?
Yeah, that was. So fight fire with fire. No, Trey Lance, swing for the fences, make a big play.
Do you think
fortune favors the bold?
Do you think Trey Lance? Do you think QB4, whoever it is, QB4 and QB5 fall to 9? Do you think 5 quarterbacks go in the first 8 picks?
QB5 might.
Okay,
I could see that, but I do think they're.
That's going to be interesting because if Mac Jones doesn't get taken at 3. I'm really interested to see when he ultimately comes off the board. Would it be 9 to Denver or all the way 15 to Washington? Or not Washington, to New England. Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think, again, this draft, man, it's going to be sick. I'm so stoked for day one. Man, I'm so stoked. Remember, you can watch the draft and hear the drilling, I'm sure, on the podcast. Watch the draft. We're going to be live on YouTube, PFF.com, and Twitter all 3 days of the draft and for 3 hours a day after the draft. Come tune in.
We're 3 hours after the draft. That one's...
It's going to be fun.
Hitting snooze.
All right, this is from James Durbin Fanatic. Do you think that without the concussion concerns, Jaelan Phillips will be the consensus #1 edge and a top 10 pick?
I don't know. So his tape is definitely better than like Kwity Paye's Jason Elway. But Kwity Paye and Jason Elway are definitely freakier athletes. So it's I don't know if he'd be consensus number 1 edge, top 10 pick. I don't think so.
Fair.
I don't think it would be consensus would mean everyone would be saying it, like Chase Young last year. So I don't think that would be the case, but he definitely does, like I said, have better tape coming out.
I think Jaelan Phillips definitely gets a bump, maybe gets inside the top 15, maybe a top 15, top 16 type of lock. But I do think that consensus, no way. I mean, there's so many different opinions on every position. I don't think there's a consensus at any position really outside of maybe quarterback.
And he's also definitely would qualify as like 1 year wonder type of, like, he back at UCLA was not the same guy as he was this past year.
Very true. All right, this is from In Douglas We Trust. If there were a Hunger Games with every NFL starting quarterback right now, pre-draft, who's winning?
Man, that one's tough.
Give me a second. Hunger Games. Because you need survival skills in Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be some quarterbacks that are willing to play the long game.
Some speed. I don't think like size matters.
Fitzpatrick's a dark horse for me.
Yeah. Fitzpatrick would.
Josh Allen's not a bad bet.
Rodgers is probably like, seems like you
get out of here, you Packers homer. Rodgers getting sniped day 1.
That's not true.
You don't want to pick a big name quarterback because they're gonna have a target on their back.
Yeah.
You don't think you want to be the first guy to kill Tom Brady?
You know what? Okay, I got my answer. It's Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray's good because he's so small.
Yeah.
He can hide inside the hole of a tree.
Kyler Murray's
like a
tough.
squirrel. That's
Kyler
true. Kyler Murray's a great pick. Great pick. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick as a betting dark horse, but Kyler Murray might be my pick as well. But Tom Brady, I feel like he's gonna have a target on his back.
Russell Wilson would also be up there. Although he's a little too.
Yeah.
His self-awareness is not high.
I don't know if I like that one. All right, this is from Guilfoyle Lucy 4. When NFL teams with average linebackers just be better off playing 6 or 7 DBs at once, if you can grab a middling college safety and turn him into Matt Milano, what's even the point of investing in a traditional off-ball linebacker?
Teams are going that route. Like, teams are not investing in off-ball linebackers. But I will say, like, when you are going light boxes, it's almost more important to have a linebacker that can stop the run than it is to have a linebacker that can cover. Like, they're not getting targeted when you have, like I said, light boxes. When you have other like 5-6 DBs on the field, what they do in coverage doesn't necessarily matter. But if they can fucking stop runs left and right, that's a value add because then you don't have to have the safeties come up and play, which is kind of the beauty of Brendan Staley's defense last year. So I do think they're not completely dead. They're moving that way, though. Yeah,
no way they're completely dead. You know what's interesting? I was thinking, we talk a lot about how many defenders are in the box. What about total weight in the box? How much mass do you have in the box? Which teams play with the most mass in the box?
But that's kind of like what those teams are doing is like get 2 guys that can stop the run at defense tackle. Mm-hmm. Don't give a shit what they do in the pass game.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then a guy that can legitimately 2 guys that can legitimately 2 gap takes 2 gaps out that you don't need your safety to be there for.
Fair enough. All right, this is from Young Washington. Give me great draft perspective on draft overall. Oh, wait, this is not the question. For Washington football team, how do you think they will attack the draft? Broad, I like it.
I think they're going to be on the phone. Mm-hmm. They're going to be saying, hey, what's it going to take? But I also don't think they're going to be able to get it done. Because then you just look at their options. They're kind of in a Carolina-esque situation. Say a quarterback does fall. 8, 9 are your 2 options then to get a quarterback. And that would assume like Denver had already moved up. So it'd be Atlanta and Carolina. They're moving down 12 spots or 11 spots to go back to you. That's just a far cry. So maybe then the guy falls to 10. Dallas is not going to trade in the division. Giants aren't going to trade in the division. Philly's not going to trade in the division. 10, 11, 12. Then once it gets to 13, it's like that he's going to be off the board.
Yeah.
QB5. So you're kind of just in a tough spot. I think you stand pat and just prioritize keeping young talent in this roster. Like, get more because you got so much. Like, you get enough young talent, and then you can just ball out in free agency here soon.
I would also say young talent, and this is beating a dead horse, but at premium positions because you have to pay a lot of these guys soon. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Deron Payne. I mean, you have a lot of guys that are going to be asking for second contracts here soon. You're going to need to get cheaper somewhere. Don't get cheaper at safety. Don't get cheaper at running back. I saw a mock draft that had a running back going to them at 19.
Ooh. You can say it. It was Pete Traeger's.
Pete Traeger. But I mean, that's what he's hearing.
Yeah.
It's fine. But I'm saying you don't want to get cheaper there. If you're the football team, I don't care about needs. If you like this running back over Antonio Gibson, I don't care.
I mean, they should be players in the tackle class.
Yes, they should be. Exactly.
They should draft one of these.
But I mock draft a tackle to Washington, and I almost had my throat slit in DC. People don't want tackle. People want sexiness. People want the sex. Put that on a quote graphic, Sofaro. All right, this is from
put Austin's face. Dead center.
People want the sex.
People want the sex.
What do you think of this hat, by the way? Got recently.
Raptors? You a big Raptors guy?
Big Raptors guy.
Do you wear it like ironically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I don't love that.
Don't love that?
No.
It's better than the
it's a
fucking
cool hat,
military
though.
cut.
I used to have my first jersey I ever got was the Vince Carter Raptors.
Oh, the Vince Carter one was dope.
Yeah.
The retro? White or dark?
Well, just like it was the one at the time that was like the purple one.
Oh, the purple one.
Yeah.
All right, this is from Lydia Cash. With the Giants picking at 11, assuming Parsons is off the board, is it too soon to draft JOK? And is he too similar to guys we already have on the roster?
Everyone wants JOK. I don't think that's too soon, honestly. There, he's the positional scarcity poster boy. That where else are you gonna get a JOK?
True.
Jeremy Cormo, the Notre Dame linebacker, who's 220 pounds, but can play linebacker, can play safety, can play slot corner. That's the smaller Isaiah Simmons, but honestly more of a fluid Isaiah Simmons. So I wouldn't hate it.
I think they need a lot. I don't know. I kind of like Slater there. I like Devontae Smith there a lot. I think Devontae Smith, if he's there at 11.
The amount of teams that are going to pass in Devontae Smith, I think, is going to be like CeeDee Lamb-esque last year, which is
really?
Like, damn. Like, you couldn't have used a CeeDee Lamb. I know, like, you maybe got one, maybe you got two, but, like, you probably could have used a CeeDee Lamb still.
You think he falls past 16? Or
maybe not 16. CeeDee Lamb went 17 last year. Judy went 15. But I don't think he falls necessarily that far. But like I said, there's going to be teams that are going to pass on him, and then Devontae Smith.
If the Giants and the Eagles pass on him, I'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah, I think the Eagles. That's why I keep saying the Eagles are in a good spot to get a wide receiver.
Nice. Austin is handsome with the stash. Wow, what a username from this kid. All right, as a Bengals fan, with the Dolphins moving up to 6 and Lions needing both linemen and literally anyone to catch the ball, how much does it take to be worth potentially missing on Chase or Sewell at 5? And should they stick at 5 and take Chase? I want the fireworks to make up the offensive lines were neglected for so long. Which linemen best fit their new wide zone scheme at 38 and potentially 69?
Yeah, they're tough because you think about who they'd realistically move down for. Not going to be Detroit. Not going to be Carolina. Denver would be the first team. And that's assuming Atlanta drafts like Kyle Pitts. So if you move down that many spots, I think you're taking yourself out of the Jamar Chase, Penny Sewell sweepstakes. And I don't think you want to do that. So it would take a good deal then for me to do so. Probably like another first. Mm-hmm. I don't know if to give up 4 spots, are you going to give up another first year number? Maybe. I don't know. But that's probably what it would take.
I would agree. This is Jags fan 16 plus Urban. I'm in a constant argument with my friends that the Jags should not draft a running back in the first 2 rounds, even if one falls. Harris, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams. We have too many holes and have Robinson on a UDFA contract. What positions would you target for the Jags in the first 2 rounds? And what is a realistic win total? Definitely not running back.
Win total is tough. You're not really rookie quarterbacks, you just never really know. I think with this roster, 7-9, 6-10 is where you would.
They play 17 games.
6-11. What the hell? How many would that add up to?
That's it.
7-10.
That's it.
That sounds awful, but to say. But
the Jags' current win total is 6.5. Would you bet that over or under right now?
So 17 games, I bet over.
Nice.
Because you're going to have a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah.
Just are.
You just are.
Just are. I would love for them to keep pumping into this defensive line. Honestly, make that strong as hell.
Yep.
Obviously,
the other reason to bet the Jags over 6.5, just to comment again on that, bet wherever you can get your sports book here. I'm fading the Colts a little bit with Carson Wentz. Definitely fading Houston.
Yeah.
And then
division.
I think Tennessee could regress a little bit. Losing Corey Davis.
They lost their 2 starting quarterbacks. That'd be difficult.
2 starting corners. Lost Corey Davis.
Although
lost Johnny
Smith.
Smith.
Adoree played last year, but yeah.
I'm interested to see just how good Tennessee is again. Like with losing a lot this offseason.
Did.
I mean, Jags. I'm not saying Jags win the division. I think they're like plus 800 to win the division. But over 6.5 wins, I'm kind of keen on it.
I'm in.
All right.
8.5.
Nice. All right, this is from...
Wait, can you do half wins now with 17 game schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just did it, 6.5.
I'm saying, never mind. Just go.
Do you think the market moves at all after Trevor Lawrence's pick, though? Probably not, right?
It would be absurd.
I think you probably want to get that bet in before the draft, though. I might slam it. I'm going to be rooting for the Jags next year. All right,
I hate long-term bets, though, because it's like...
Yeah, you keep your money all...
Yeah, we just invest in GameStop first.
Yeah. Well, no. Invest in the Jags. How about invest in the Jags? To the moon season. All right, this is from Fade Russ West. I know there are a lot of universal maxims that PFF has. For example, never trade future picks for a non-quarterback. I was curious if you guys would have a reflective conversation about team-specific expectations to some of those maxims. For instance, consider the Saints. Many later-round picks for the Saints probably wouldn't even make the roster. In light of that possibility, doesn't it make sense for the Saints to trade future picks often to get a guy that will actually impact their team? I think my take on that...
Don't we say this? I feel like we say this, though, like a lot, where it's like, know where you are as a roster. Mm-hmm. Then you can make plays.
But I do think I find myself saying a lot, don't trade up for non-quarterbacks. I think I'm to clarify, in the first round is my take. I do think trading up into the first 10 picks or into the first 15 picks to go get your guy at a non-quarterback position is probably malpractice. However, day 2, day 3, when all you're offloading is like future fifths and future fourths, I don't think there's that big of an issue.
And it's also... Again, like, it's like know where you are as a roster. Last year, the Bucs trading up one spot, and I was one spot. But we're like, hell yeah, do that. Yeah. Like, that guy's going to make a massive difference for you in a window here.
And that was only what? They gave up, what, third? Maybe a fourth?
I can't exactly remember, yeah.
I'm going to look it up.
But it's like the Bills, when they traded up a future first to go get Sammy Watkins, it's like, you're not understanding where you are. Mm-hmm. That first rounder is going to be very valuable to you. You need that first rounder. One wide receiver is not going to make that difference. So... I think that's where we say, 1, know where you're at as a roster. 2, one guy is often not as much as 2 guys. But if you're in a position where one guy is the only thing that can be starting your team, then by all means.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traded to go up one spot. They gave the Niners the 117th pick.
Okay. That's not
and then the Niners gave them back the 245th pick. So you're swapping roughly over 100 slots. But I do think that...
But even if they would have moved up farther than that, I would have been for it because of, obviously, where that roster was.
They knew they were close. And they had a whale falling. Tristan Wirfs, what a legend. All right, this is CLB Bill. All day in school, I do mock drafts and play around with different ways my favorite team, the Giants, can fill their holes in the draft. In one scenario, I have the Giants trading back from 11 into the 20s, then using a future second rounder and later draft capital to trade back up into the first to get a second pick in the 20s. I have them taking Jaelan Phillips, and Rashad Bateman, wide receiver Minnesota, with those picks on the 20s with then landing Alabama center Landon Dickerson, Kentucky linebacker Jamin Davis in the second, as well as BYU offensive tackle, who's on today's podcast, Brady Christensen, in the third. In another scenario, I have them trading... Dude, this guy's a monster. I love it. I have them trading from 11 into the 20s, then using their 4th and 5th and both 6th round picks to acquire 2nd and 3rd round picks, where they take Rashad Bateman, Minnesota, Joseph Asai, edge defender, Oklahoma State, Landon Dickerson, Alabama center, Creed Humphrey, Oklahoma center, interior offensive line, and Jamin Davis, Kentucky linebacker. I'm lost. Which scenario do you like better? And what are your thoughts on the Giants trading back from 11 to grab Bateman? Thanks. Love the pod. Man, that guy's in school just grinding, dude. His teacher's like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, don't worry about it.
I like the first one where you got Phillips, Bateman, Dickerson, Davis. I think Brady Christensen. That's a lot. It's a lot of talent.
It's fair.
Now, realism of these, on the low end.
Yeah.
For sure.
Jamin Davis, I think, is going to go higher than people think.
Yeah, but trading back, like the teams from like 10 to 14, that's when the draft starts to be like real crapshoot. Mm-hmm. Like the guys who are
there aren't like objectively better players.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you're really just, and I would put that range about from 12 on the PFF draft board to about 28 on the PFF draft board. It's like, man, that's not a huge difference. There's not a lot in terms of the quality of prospect at that point. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if someone wants to give you a second to move up, say, hell yeah, give me a second. Give me another guy that I can take a swing at in this draft class of more unknowns than ever. So it's just going to take 2 to tango is the always thing we say about trades. That George sometimes doesn't say about trades when he keeps saying trade back. Well, it's like, yeah, someone's
Dude,
got
last year's
pick up the
draft
phone.
show, any team takes any player, they should have traded back. That's true. I mean, to be fair, though, you get the understanding of it, but it does take two to tango. It does take two to tango. All right, this is from John 99999. What would be the difference in? I'm going to shout out Bill again. Don't quit, Bill. You're in school running mock drafts. Don't stop. Keep running it. Love to see it. You freaking love to see it. This is from John 99999.
Kid, if that existed.
What would be the difference in where the Giants would be today if they took Josh Allen over Daniel Jones, like most Giants fans wanted? Draft position this year, last year, etc. Let me start.
You'd have. Okay, go.
I don't know how good he would be, because if you don't commit like they did with Brian Dable in this offense, and they do what they've done with Daniel Jones.
No. Josh Allen, the defensive end.
Oh, I thought they meant. I was like confused. I thought they meant
No. So
the Wyoming quarterback.
Let me start. You would have probably been drafting in the same spot last year, 4th overall. And you would have taken Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Just flat out would have. That's who, Dave Gettleman would have kicked his pants for Justin Herbert. So.
Yeah. I thought he meant Josh Allen, the Wyoming quarterback.
No. That's probably where you'd be. Now, maybe they would have won a few more games, maybe been out of the Herbert sweepstakes, because then Eli Manning would have started that whole year instead of, I think, what did he get, 4 games? And then Daniel Jones came in. But, yeah, I think you probably have Justin Herbert right now, to be honest.
That's fair.
So that's why we say take quarterback, but only if it's a good quarterback. Like, don't just, take shots at a guy whose upside is the Kirk Cousins.
What was our grade on Daniel Jones coming out?
He was, in the 30s on our board. So,
all right, PFF's unofficial unpaid intern, lifelong Falcons fan here. Been one ever since I laid eyes on Vic back in the early 2000s. Vic was awesome. We talked about players recently that got you to love football. Whew, man, that guy was sick. So here's my question: if you're the Falcons at pick 4, would you have any real consideration for taking Fields Lance, assuming they're there, and look to rebuild the roster for the future, or snag Kyle Pitts and try to win by solely relying on that offense next year?
Yeah, I think we just had this take. I'd rather take a quarterback. If you're sitting pat at 4, I'd rather take the quarterback just because that value is going to stay with that guy. And so 2 years from now, if he shows anything, he has a bomb-ass preseason, you can flip him for a lot. Now, if you're really trying to win here soon, which they should be, you got Matt Ryan, you should be trying to win here soon. You got a fairly good
and you just committed
roster.
to him again.
Yeah. I wouldn't hate grabbing Kyle Pitts. I'm not gonna say it's the worst idea in the world, but then you got to hit a lot of defense, and you don't. You really have to hit on a lot of picks. Then it's gonna make your life a little bit more difficult because your cap's situation is no bueno.
I really do think they're gonna get enough. They've already gotten calls. They're going to get more calls on draft day after the San Francisco 49ers take whoever they're taking. Right now, I think the betting favorite is Mac Jones at minus 150.
I would just be floored if you didn't get a good offer.
Yeah,
that 4th overall.
That's what I'm saying. Especially if you told people you're on the phone with Denver and you're saying, hey, we're going to take a quarterback here unless you want to come up. And they say, let's do it. I guarantee it. Yeah. I guarantee Denver's interested. I guarantee New England's interested. They're going to make a play. All right, this is from Gail's dad's name. Love that. His name is Vince. Who are some
I thought it
day
was
2
GXCV.
No, it's not GXCV.
Oh, okay.
That's my mom's name.
Okay.
Who are some day 2 and day 3 targets for my Dallas Cowboys in the draft? Specifically curious about the single high free safety, slam stretch Mike linebacker, and I think that's 3 technique? Or no, 1-3 technique DTs for Quinn's defense.
Yes. So single high free safety, Andre Cisco.
Let's go.
Syracuse. Let us go. He is the single high free safety in this class. Now, it's a unique skill set to have that kind of range. You're going to have to coach him up. Might not be able to come in and start right away, but that's that guy. Second round, Mike, I think Nick Bolton will be on the board there. And I would love Nick Bolton to the Dallas Cowboys. That would be a hashtag fun to watch sort of linebacker in that defense. And then 1-3 techniques, I think Tommy Togiai fits them. Penetrating. That guy can get upfield. That's his bag, the Ohio State defensive tackle. That's a guy I'd look for. 3rd round, maybe a little high, maybe 4th, but I'm a fan of Tommy Togiai.
This is from Sir Obvious. Why does Mike have small calves?
I straight up don't have that small of calves. If I could like show them here, I really can't 'cause of what I'm wearing right now.
Yeah.
There's like, you got like a little bifurcation.
I recently made an investment in the dad gene. I don't know if you get back to the wide shot, Quinn. I don't know if I like it or hate it.
What's the dad gene?
It like doesn't grip your ankles as tight. I don't know. I'm trying to own Shia LaBeouf. I think Shia LaBeouf's energy and style is like
You're the
intentionally
only one.
homeless. And I'm the only one.
Shia LaBeouf's not trying to own Shia LaBeouf's energy.
Exactly. But I'm going to lean into it. Here we are. All right. Enough of this because people listening to the podcast can't see us.
Yeah.
For Sir Obvious, he asked why your calves are so small. I'd like a comment. And then the other one is also, what does the trade for Sam Darnold change about the way you see the top 10 picks shaking
You
out?
can straight up see my calves through my sweatpants. Look at that. This
They look great. They're small, but they look good. All right. Can you answer his second question, please?
Okay. I'm a little on tilt because of the small calves.
What does the trade for Sam Darnold change about the way you see the top 10 picks?
Yeah,
shaking
I
out?
just think the Panthers' phone's going to be a little quiet now. They are out of the move-up game. Now, someone false to them. We've seen mocks saying that they could still draft quarterback, and I wholeheartedly believe that. But they're just not going to be moving heaven and earth to do so.
Yep.
So it's kind of like the Bengals, like what I said about the Bengals trade options. I don't think they're trading back anymore. I don't think Miami would be flipping with it. Like they're kind of just out of that.
This is from Barefruit15. We are both avid Lions fans, and one day recently I presented him with this scenario. Take a tackle at 7, whether Sewell or Slater. If Elijah Tucker is still there at 15, trade both first rounders next year and a third this year to the Patriots to go up and snag him. Overnight, we have the best offensive line in football. We will also presumably have some compensatory picks coming our way next year to replace what we gave up. He told me that was simultaneously hilarious, irresponsible, and spectacularly brilliant. I say fortune favors the bold. Then he gave a much more measured response. I don't know who he's talking to. Trade down. Huh?
His brother.
Oh, his brother. Trade down to 11, get AVT, and then trade a first next year and a third this year to move up into the mid-20s to grab Tevin Jenkins. Which one is better, or are both complete garbage?
You realize your first next year is going to be like a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
They're your Lions. Do not trade your first next year no matter what, man.
No.
Oh, my God. They're both complete garbage. I'm sorry.
Yeah. They should be trading down. They should be looking to trade down if Atlanta, Cincy, and Miami doesn't. And there's still QB4, QB5 on the board. Yeah. Detroit is in a trade down spot. Detroit is going to be, you remember that win totals thing I said? Detroit's win totals right now are 5, the second lowest in the NFL. Betting markets see them as the second worst team in the NFL. You don't do anything near a trade up for anything, especially a non-quarterback. You trade 2 future firsts for AVT? Like how as good as he could be.
Could you imagine if you trade 2 future firsts for Elijah Tucker and that ends up the number 1 overall pick?
If you, I agree. I mean, you have to. Here comes back to self-awareness. Where are you at as a roster? Where are you at as a roster? Betting markets see you as the second worst team in the NFL. The only other team, their quarterback is currently battling 22 civil lawsuits that I think are going criminal. So you're a half win better than them.
Jesus. Yeah.
Sorry, but I mean that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think the Lions need to be trading back if there's a QB on the market and Denver wants to come up, New England wants to come up. That's where they should be, or take the best player there. Yeah. Doesn't matter what position. I prefer the valuable ones. Yeah. All right, jumping to Collins 0007. What would be considered best case scenario for the Cardinals on draft night? Is it to trade up for one of the big 3 pits? One of the big 3 / pits. I think they mean receivers.
Yeah.
Or stay up and take the best available.
It's tough because they're pushing the chips.
Yeah.
And so like a Jalen Waddle, they could be the team I could see move up for a Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't hate it. It's a unique skill set. So like if they're, pick 11, we're just saying who's going to trade back with the Giants. It could be the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. They could say, hey, Jalen Waddle's on the board. I want him. No one's going to come close to what he brings to the table. Andy Isabella ain't bringing that. So that's if you're going to move up for anyone, that's what I would do. But otherwise, pray one of those wide receivers falls or a cornerback, because you definitely need a cornerback here as well.
Man, I agree that they're in a position where this is our time to push. I don't know if I like the idea of them trading up. Maybe something we haven't talked about enough. I don't think with Jalen Waddle, size and age. It gets brought up a ton with Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle's isn't like markedly worse or maybe as close, but 6 foot 190, I think is what he weighed in at. And he's also like the same exact age. I think separated by a couple of days as Devontae Smith. Yeah. I don't know why Devontae Smith gets all this negative attention for his weight. Obviously, he's like one of the lightest guys, but Jalen Waddle doesn't. Like Jalen Waddle's also light. Like he's also a very light receiver. I guess different speed or what?
So he's like 5'10", 183.
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
different than 6 foot 166 by a lot, in my opinion. Like it is just very different. Now he is on the lighter side for the position, but it's also like that's much closer to what Tyreek Hill is than.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm interested to know how much Tyreek Hill weighs. What his playing weight is, because obviously his list weight could be different. But so 183, someone was making
185.
Okay,
so it's like
right in that range. Do you think you're going to continue to see lighter receivers like this dominate? Like where you're valuing speed, you're valuing separation, you're valuing 4.340s at pro days and stuff like that?
That's a good question. I think the NFL is more equipped now to take advantage of those guys than ever before. That there's a role now in an offense. Like 3 wide is the norm, and that third guy. He's getting a free release. He's off the line of scrimmage. He's running jet sweeps. Like that speed is going to play in ways that just if you don't run a 4.3, it's not going to play.
Yep.
So I think teams are doing better job taking advantage of it. Now, can you build a receiving core out of just those guys? Probably not.
Fair.
But I do think that that's an increased role at the receiver position and it's increasing in value.
Last question here. Last question of the pre-draft mailbag. Then we're going to reset and attack post-draft mailbag questions here. The other thing I'll say about Jalen or the receivers getting smaller and stuff, I do think that you're going to start to see, again, defenses and teams prioritize getting defensive backs that have speed and guys that can stick with these guys. I think you're going to see more teams do that. All right. This is from more dime personnel, more nickel, all that stuff. All right. This is from Ajax1624. With Gregory Rousseau's stiffness, could you see a team drafting him to play 5 tech in a 3-4? Does he have the frame to add weight to 290, 300? I've seen some comparisons to Calais Campbell. Thoughts on that? And where do you draft that kind of prospect?
I'm surprised he didn't, honestly. Remember we talked to him before.
Yeah, he said Calais Campbell's a guy he watches a ton of and can get to that caliber of weight.
And yeah, he said he could, but he only came in at 266 as pro day, so he kind of middled in terms of like edge versus interior. I think that's his best. Like I think that's his best bet. Is playing 5 tech inside 3 tech.
Dude, like 6'6", 280, 290. He's just a monster.
Because that's where he dominated.
Yeah.
Like, that is where he dominated. So if he, 15 pounds, I don't, definitely not out of the realm of possibility for a 21-year-old. Like you get up in the 280 range.
That's a good conversation for Gregory Rousseau. We've had him on 2 times on this podcast. Maybe we get him on a 3rd time and see where teams want to play him after he gets drafted, whatever it may be. That's going to do it, though. That's going to do it for the last listener mailbag, the bonus listener mailbag. We're now going to jump to interviews with former BYU offensive tackle Brady Christensen and former Florida offensive tackle Stone Forsythe. Now joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is former BYU offensive tackle, also PFF's highest graded offensive tackle in the country in 2020, Brady Christensen. Brady, great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Excited to be on the show. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man, it's sweet, dude. You had an absolutely insane season this past year with BYU. So did a lot of those players. Dax Milne, obviously Zach Wilson, Kyrus Tonga. There's a lot of really successful players coming out of BYU. You definitely one of them. And you're coming after one of the better pro days for many offensive tackle this offseason as well. Talk to me about your training process and kind of what your expectations were going into that pro day. And then maybe what's been some of the feedback from teams after that pro day or maybe even through the Zoom calls that you've had so far.
Yeah, so leading up to, I knew I was going to have a killer pro day. I went down to Dallas, Texas, and trained down at Michael Johnson's Performance. They really prepared me, and I really worked my tail off to be ready for it. We had a couple mock combines, so I kind of knew where my numbers were. But really, I hit all my goals and kind of exceeded them with what I wanted to get. I think a lot of adrenaline going and a lot of teams there. I felt like I did really good. I just wanted really to show that I belong in the conversation of elite tackles. I feel like I'm there. I feel like athletically I'm there. And so that was my goal going into pro day. And I know that if I was going to kill it, teams are going to go back and watch my film and rewatch and kind of be like, are we missing something? And so that's what I wanted to get accomplished at the pro day. And I feel like a lot of teams have been reaching out after that, talking to me, interviewing me, going through installs. I feel like I've gotten a lot of good progress going after that for sure.
That's awesome, man. I definitely think, it forced me to go back to the tape. Honestly, I know Mike was talking about it as well. Like going back to the tape and seeing, where that athleticism was on display. You weighed in at 6'6", 302. Is that the weight you're comfortable playing at? Is that the weight you played at this past season? Did you work up to that? I'd be interested to know, where your playing weight is and maybe what weight you want to be at in the NFL.
Yeah, I played about 300, 302 last year. I feel comfortable here, but I feel like I got up to about 306. So I've been ranging the last few months. My highest was 308. And so I feel good there too. I feel like I can play 310. It's kind of up to the coaches, kind of who I go play for, what kind of scheme I'm playing for, whether I want to stay here or gain weight type of thing. So we'll kind of see, but I feel comfortable here and gaining weight.
To hit on some of the other numbers for the listeners, 34-inch vertical, 95th percentile among offensive tackles, 124-inch broad, 100th percentile, 4.89 40-yard dash, 96th percentile. And then what was wild to me, man, was the change of direction drill. Short shuttle, 4.46, 94th percentile, 7.333 cone, that's 95th percentile. That was, dude, just put on an absolute stellar day. But I'm sure, the number that gets brought up a ton, when you're trying to go into the NFL with offensive tackles is arm length. Coming at 32 and a quarter, teams have this like kind of cut off at 33 inches. I remember I interviewed Jonah Williams when he was coming out, and he couldn't go to the podium at the combine without talking about his arm length. Every single question was about his arm length. And I was like, he's like, dude, I don't want to talk about this anymore. If my arms were like a half inch longer, no one would even bring it up. Like all this different stuff. What has been some of the, I'm sure working with other offensive linemen, working with offensive line coaches, and then talking to teams in the NFL, what is their opinion of arm length? Is there this actual cutoff? Or they're like, oh yeah, 32 and a quarter inch arms. There's no way you're playing tackle. I'm interested to know like what feedback you've gotten on that and what your opinion on it is overall.
Yeah. I mean, like some teams like make fun, jab at you a little bit. I haven't got a bunch of feedback that it's a cutoff for teams, and like Jonah was probably saying to me, like, you can't really control your arm length. So I wasn't worried about that. It's not like, I was stretching and stuff and, trying to get the extra little bit. But I think it's like either you can play the position or you can't type of thing. And so that's kind of my thought process. And there's so many different ways to block the ends and at tackle and stuff. That I just feel like you got to find your strengths and find what you're really good at to be able to lock down these defenders. And if you got long arms, use them, great. If not, then you got to find different ways, great. I don't think it's a big issue either way.
Yeah, when I was talking to Jonah, I'm sure you feel this way as well. I was like, hey, I know it's not going to limit me, but I also understand that it's a weakness compared to guys with 35, 36-inch arms. And where I make up for it is in the film room. Where I wake up for it is with my footwork and these different types of things. Like you have to, identify ways. I mean, he's saying that he worked with Joe Staley a ton, talked to David Bakhtiari, guys that like don't necessarily have like, the biggest wingspans in the world, and they constantly bring up just finding your edges elsewhere, finding your strengths elsewhere. I find that conversation really interesting. I think it's a good transition to talk about, what you do in a given game week or a practice week to prepare for an upcoming opponent. When you're looking at a defensive end or an edge defender or even a defense, what are you looking for on film from from a keys or tells type of way, or I'm trying to look for the word here, but what do you look for on film as a, kind of opportunities or takeaways to take with you into a game?
Yeah, so one thing I'm really looking at when I'm studying specific DNs, pass rushing is all about rhythm. How they throw, when they throw, what foot they throw. So whether their left foot is up or the right foot, it's all about rhythm. And then when they throw. So like I always look at keys, like do they throw on three? Is their inside move on the first step because their left foot is up, or can they go onside because their outside foot is up? Can they go inside right away? Just like different things like that, to find out their rhythm. And then also to I study their like go-to moves. So it's obvious pass seeking situations. Are they a big two-hand big two-hand rip guy? Are they rip and swipe type of thing? Just really studying though and see those specific pass rush moves is what I'm really looking at. And then not giving like the defensive end what they want. Do they love throwing against that outside hand? And if they do, they love that two-hand swipe and I'm throwing that outside hand, maybe I'm going to throw an inside hand, just really studying that, the rhythm, and trying to give them what they want, try not to give what they want and really switch it up is what I'm really looking for.
I'd be interested to hear you talk more about how you kind of set up different things, because I think a lot of people bring up pass rushers kind of setting up pass rush moves, but also offensive tackles will set things up by doing different drops and those types of things. How often are you playing that kind of mental side of it, where you have to kind of play chess a little bit against a player?
All the time. I'm basically at BYU. We basically had 4 different sets, and I was switching them up all the time. Whether it be a jump set, making a wide 9, a 5, getting on them real quick, C-setting, which is just a vertical set. I'm just doing all these different sets to really throw off that rhythm, like I was saying before. Because if they don't ever get in a rhythm in a game, they're always kind of second guessing what's going on, what you're doing, instead of what they're doing. And that's when you know you have the defensive end, is when they're focusing more on you rather than focusing on their move or their rhythm.
And I think that set versatility you have on film only comes with athleticism. Like, you can't do that level of set. You can't have that level of set versatility without having the feet and the footwork and the overall speed and athleticism that you do have. That's a tip of the cap to you, my friend. I'd be interested to know more about how much that film preparation or film study has changed in the offseason. Have you had any opportunity to maybe go back and watch more film on yourself, watch film on guys in the NFL, maybe guys that you pattern your game after?
Yeah, I watch a bunch of guys in the offseason, even in college, of guys in the league, that I really feel that are like similar to me, similar traits. Like, I watch, like you were saying, guys with short arms. I watch David Bakhtiari a lot. I watch Ramczyk a lot. I even watch Garrett Bowles a lot. He's from Utah, so just down the road. Just watching those guys, seeing what they do really well, and seeing how they have their edge, and then trying to add that to my game. People always talk about, like, offensive linemen, you need a toolbox of like all the different things you can throw at people. And so that's what I'm doing this offseason, is seeing if I can just add anything to my game that will help me be successful at the next level.
What do you feel like really separates you in this offensive tackle class? Obviously, a stellar athlete, graded really, really well. The production there is there at BYU. But what do you feel like your biggest strength or your biggest separator is for you in this offensive tackle class?
Yeah, I feel like my athleticism, first off, separates me. I feel like, at Pro Day, we were talking about the numbers, and I actually wore my Kobe's, to try to get,
nice.
Kobe.
Love that. That's a fantastic call. I love that call.
I wore my Kobe Grinches, for the vert and stuff, just to get a little extra athleticism in there, And so I really want to show that. And I feel like I'm as good as athlete as anyone in this draft class as far as offensive lineman. And then my IQ too. I feel like my football IQ, I feel like I'm playing a step ahead based on that film study, based on seeing defenses and their tendencies. I feel like I have a really good pickup of that and kind of almost sense what they're going to do before the ball is actually snapped. And I feel like that really separates me from this offensive tackle class for sure.
This is another good question too. I've talked to a lot of players about like what NFL teams are asking them in these Zoom calls and in this preparation for the NFL draft. And I know a lot of them have guys go up on the whiteboard and have them go up and on the film room and show them what you do. Is that kind of the most common use of that time, or are there other questions or other things that teams are asking you in those meetings?
I think the majority of what I've gotten is offensive line coaches want to see how you learn and how you pick up things, because in college, everyone's coached differently, and that's part of college. That's part of life. Everyone's going to be different. So they want to see if you can pick up their scheme. So they're going to do an install, a play, an inside zone, or a pass protection, a six-man pass protection with their calls, and they're going to kind of quiz you at the end and see how you pick up things and how you learn, and see if you can get a grasp of it in a short amount of time. And that's what I've gotten the most. Obviously, people ask about your plays and stuff and watch your film, seeing what you're doing, see if you have a good knowledge of your offense. But I think it's a good combination of both, seeing if you have a good knowledge of your offense, but also able to learn a new scheme relatively quickly, I think is what they're really, really looking for.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording about Zach Wilson. I'm interested for you to give me a story on Zach Wilson. Could be from practice, could be in the locker room. I'm interested. So this guy has been overanalyzed since January. I want to hear a story from you, one of his teammates. We were also joking about how bland his fucking Chipotle order was in that tweet. I mean, guy needs to step it up. Put some hot sauce on it, all right? Come on, have it, some queso, some guac. All right, anyway, give me a good story and talk about Zach Wilson as a player and as a teammate.
Man, I think one thing that he isn't talked about enough is just his competitiveness. One night we were having kind of like a game night, and we were playing this game called Secret Hitler. And it's a game where, you have like the good team and the bad team and then Secret Hitler, and you're trying to figure out who everyone is and you're lying about it. And that game got so competitive. We were yelling at each other, cursing at each other, telling that like whatever, Tony line. And he was getting into it. And I'm a competitive guy too. I was getting into it. And it was just like, it really kind of dawned on me that like, man, there's a reason why guys make it to where they're at. It's just, I think that competitive spirit is huge, and he's got it. So I don't really care where he goes or where he ends up in the draft. He's going to be successful based on that alone. Obviously, he's got the work ethic and everything else, but he's a really competitive guy.
What's wild to me is that I've asked a Clemson player that same question. Give me a story about Trevor Lawrence. And both of you guys have brought up times where you're not playing football, you're playing some game. He was playing dodgeball with Trevor Lawrence, and you bring up just how freaking competitive these guys are, like how much they just turn it on. They turn it on regardless. It was dodgeball. Clemson plays dodgeball apparently, and Trevor Lawrence would just not refuse to lose in dodgeball, which obviously he has some skills to do that as well. But as simple as a board game or a small game like Secret Hitler, to see Zach Wilson really turn it on like that does speak to the competitive fire. Absolutely, man. Well, I really appreciate the time, dude. This has been fantastic. I'd like to finish with this one if we could. I asked all the players this, but what is your motivation? What's driving your competitive fire? Why what's your why, or why you continue to make the sacrifices you do to pursue a career in the NFL and continue to play this game?
I think I have two big whys. I love the game more than anything. I felt like I was made to play the game of football. I love it. But second off, I have a wife and a beautiful child just born a month ago, a little baby boy.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. And so, man, even doing that pro day, I was thinking about my little baby boy and just I just got so much more motivated because of him and just doing it for him and my wife. That's definitely my why. And I'm excited to keep going and see where this leads us for sure.
Fantastic stuff, man. I wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Austin.
Now joining the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast is former Florida offensive tackle Stone Forsythe. Stone, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I want to start with, just this past season and kind of how you developed at Florida, something that PFF has noticed, specifically in pass protection. You have improved as a pass blocker every year of your career at Florida, specifically over the past 2 seasons, playing over 800 snaps on offense for Florida. What has been, kind of the biggest driver behind kind of your improvement and your development at Florida into one of the better offensive tackles in the SEC?
I definitely kind of say it's confidence, just kind of being confident out there. Just kind of tell myself that if I'm on my game, I can kind of be one of the best out there. So it's kind of sitting in the back of my head. And not everyone's too good at pass, so it's kind of a big focus I would focus on and just try to be better at that. And this past season, we passed the ball a lot, and so it's just kind of big emphasis on that and just trying to get the ball off so everyone else can do their job.
In the meetings that you've had with NFL teams so far, what have been kind of the common pieces of feedback you've received from teams about your game, both positive and negative, maybe areas you want, they want you to improve?
They all like my pass game. They all like the length, kind of how I use my punch, kind of keep those guys off me. And big common area, kind of everyone knows, is just kind of in the run game, just kind of getting movement at the point of attack and just kind of holding those angles. So it's kind of been a big focus this offseason for me.
And how do you explain more about how you get better in the run game? Is it, obviously a lot of it is technique, but also getting stronger in your lower half. You're one of the bigger, taller offensive tackles in this class, 6'8", coming in at 6'8" recently. How do you get better in the run game? What specifically have you been working on to kind of move people up and down the line of scrimmage?
Just kind of specific stuff in the weight room, and then just kind of changing the angles in the run game. They kind of some of the guys I've been working out with here, they kind of said like some of the steps I'd take in college, like I'd be in the backfield in the NFL. So it's just kind of changing those up and just kind of getting your hips on that angle and holding those angles.
Gotcha, man. I'd be interested to hear more too in pass protection. I talked to a lot of offensive tackles, and they talk about having set versatility, being able to do jump sets and C sets and these different types of things. And in addition to that, you have to play to the pass rusher a little bit. People always say pass rushers set up their moves. Offensive tackles can do that too with their sets and how they have set versatility. I'm interested to know what goes through your head in a given game. What you're doing against a pass rusher. How do you set up certain things? How do you avoid getting beat by certain moves and that type of stuff?
I feel like definitely for me, it's just going to come with kind of film study earlier in the week and just kind of picking out things they would do and kind of if they have a different foot placement or like if a foot's back or something like that or different hand placement. So it's kind of just picking up on those keys and kind of knowing what they'll do before that happens. And then just based off of formations, kind of if I have a tight end attached or kind of just a run cell or anything like that, if he's a little tighter, I might just go get on him, just kind of play the run rather than if he's like a wide, I'll just go get back vertical and he has to get to the quarterback at some point.
Talk more about your process in a given practice week or game week, what you're looking for on film. Are you watching a certain pass, every pass rush of a certain player? Are you watching just his third down reps? I'd be interested to know the different cut-ups that you do. I know certain offensive tackles will go back and watch every single game, what he does as a pass rusher, what he does on second down and third down. Others will look even to previous years. I'd be interested to know kind of what you do to identify those tells or those keys and takeaways on tape.
Just kind of look at the cut-ups throughout the week, kind of inside zone, outside zone cut-ups, kind of gap schemes, kind of any play actions kind of based on our formations. And then kind of later in the week, I'd watch like 1 or 2 games of the previous week and just watch the whole game and just kind of see how they play throughout the game and kind of how they get tired throughout the game or kind of anything, take plays off, kind of backside or anything like that, and just kind of pick up on keys they have.
Who are some of the better pass rushers you've gone against in the SEC? Who are guys that you kind of still think about as guys that kind of gave you the best competition?
I'd say definitely Ojulari from Georgia this past season, and then Jaelan from LSU a few years ago, Derek Brown from Auburn a few years ago. So some of those guys. The kid from Oklahoma, the DM this year was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Nick Benito, right? Nick Benito, or are you taking Ronnie Perkins?
I think Perkins.
Okay, gotcha. And the other part, I think, with offensive tackles and pass rushers, I'd say corners and receivers as well, because you see the same player, the same opposition so often, there's kind of this opportunity to play in the mental side of it as well. I know a lot of those positions like to talk trash and kind of get into people's heads. What's your approach to that side of the game?
They can talk all they want. I'm not going to talk back. I mean, I'm not worried about any of that. If that's what they do, that's fine. They can psych themselves out, but they're not going to get into my head. So I'll just keep to myself.
Fair enough, man. How much has your kind of film study changed this offseason or as you prepare for the draft? Have you had opportunities to turn on the tape of yourself and kind of critique your own game, or even watch guys in the NFL that you really like or kind of want to pattern your game after?
I watch a lot. I kind of watch a lot of myself and NFL guys. I'm kind of the biggest critic of myself, so I'll look back on it and say some of it sucks, but it might not to some other people. So that's just myself. But I kind of watch some of the NFL guys. I watch Ronnie Stanley, and there's another big tackle, kind of see how he moves. And then just kind of McGlinchey from the 49ers, just other 6'8" tackles to see how they move.
Gotcha. Really appreciate the time, man. We can finish with this one. I'd love to hear your primary motivation or your why behind, your interest in continuing to pursue this game, to make the sacrifices you need to play college football at a high level, to train for the NFL, to play in the NFL, and continue to play football at the next level.
I definitely say it's a big family influence. My dad played college ball and then NFL for a little bit. So just kind of having him as an influence growing up and being kind of one of my coaches early on, and then kind of sister being an athlete. So it's just kind of big, just family competition. We're all competitive. So it's keeping the family kind of name going, making our name for ourselves, and just kind of trying to set the family up for that success down the road and stuff like that.
I think I saw that your dad, Ray, played for the Cincinnati Bengals for some time. Pro Football Focus is actually based in Cincinnati. I'll tell you this, man. If you follow in your father's footsteps and get drafted by the Bengals, eat as much Mexican food as you can, because the food here in Cincinnati is just absolutely atrocious. There is not a lot of. I mean, you're coming from Florida too. Florida has really, really good, Latin American food. Cincinnati, man, here's what you need to know. What they're known for is Skyline chili, and that might arguably be the worst chili in the country. So it's just that bad. If you get drafted by the Bengals, load up on food before you get here. But thanks again for jumping on the podcast, man. I really appreciate your time.
All right, anytime.
The end of an era. The 2021 NFL Draft mailbag season is closed. If you did not get your question answered, whether it was international or American, send me a screenshot of it or Mike a screenshot of it in Twitter DMs, and I will answer it. And it'll be thoughtful. We're going to get to it, and we're probably going to reset the mailbags in the summer. This has been a hell of a mailbag season. We're really excited about it. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Until next time, Austin Gale, producer Mike Quinn, producer David Safaro, Mike Renner, 2-4 Drafts.